Hello everybody, this is SeetherCord here, and welcome to the next installment of my Top 5 Furry series here on YouTube. Last time we covered the top 5 best furry-centered Nintendo 64 games, and today we're going to be counting down the top 5 best furry-centered GameCube games. This episode of the series is my most anticipated because the Nintendo GameCube is my favorite video game console of all time. The reason for this is because the Nintendo GameCube was my first ever video game console. I remember specifically back around 15 or so years ago getting it and having only one game, which was Super Mario Sunshine, and also not having a memory card. I remember trying to get as far as I possibly could through the game in one session until I eventually had to turn it off. It really sucked. This system was Nintendo's first disc-based gaming console, and was the only one of its generation to focus primarily on the quality of their games rather than online multiplayer. That being said, the GameCube only had 8 games that featured any online or LAN play to it at all, and even with that going against it, the Nintendo GameCube in my opinion is one of Nintendo's best consoles, because this was a period of time where they implemented so many high quality titles that were also very experimental to where Nintendo stepped out of their comfort zone and tried to introduce new types of games for this console. This system introduced us to the Pikmin franchise and also brought Animal Crossing to the States, which these franchises have continued to grow in success afterwards. Some of my personal favorite games for the system included Super Smash Bros. Melee, Super Mario Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion, Resident Evil 4, Mario Party 4, 5, 6, and 7, Mario Super Strikers, Wave Race Blue Storm, the Donkey Kong games that featured the bongos, The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, Kirby Air Ride, Ikaruga, and the Game Boy Player, which was this amazing accessory that let you play Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games on your TV. It was super awesome. Before we start off this list, I must note that the furry-specific games on this list also happen to be the most rare and expensive games for the system. 2 of these games are worth well over $100. That's insane. Anyways, let's now begin with the top 5 furry GameCube games. Number 5 on this list is a game that not that many people know about, and it's also the last game in the GameCube library alphabetically, and that is a game known as ZooCube. ZooCube is a puzzle game developed by Puzzle Kings and released by Acclaim. The game is about a mad scientist that does controversial research on animals and has left them misshapen and in unnatural forms. A machine is then created called the ZooCube in order to bring the animals back to their original forms. You score points by matching animal heads that fall towards the faces of a rotatable cube. The game is very similar to Tetris in its puzzle-solving mechanics, so that's where the game's influence tends to come from. Overall, I believe that it's a really fun game and that anyone who is a fan of puzzles can enjoy, and also it's very cheap to pick up online. I definitely recommend this to any furry who loves puzzle-solving games. Number 4 on this list has to go to a game entitled GoGo Hypergrind. This is a skateboarding game that was developed by Atlus, and was done in collaboration with the animation studio who developed the Ren and Stimpy cartoon. This game was released around when skateboarding games were still in their prime in the early to mid 2000s. The game revolves around these anthropomorphic characters that are auditioning to be in a brand new skateboarding cartoon. So with that being said, this game is pretty much Tony Hawk's Pro Skater but with furries. I must mention that the art style for this game is very inviting and really encourages others to want to play this game along with its pretty solid gameplay. This game also really captures the skateboarding subculture of the mid-2000s very well. The only downside to this game is that it costs a minimum of $100 online, this game being very rare due to poor sales. Still, if you can get your hands on this game, I'd highly recommend it. Number 3 on this list is a game that pretty much outs itself as a furry-styled video game, and the game is entitled Cubivore. Come on, they pretty much are asking for it at this point. Anyway, Cubivore is an action-based adventure game that was originally developed by Nintendo, but was originally only set to be released in Japan because they felt that it wouldn't really market that well to a North American audience. This was the case until the company Atlus picked it up for localization. So the North American release of this game was developed by Atlus themselves instead of Nintendo. The game is about a beast who is at the top of the food chain within the wilderness. The beast and his cronies have gorged on the land so much to where it's causing nature to fade away and the population of their species is decreasing. It is up to the protagonist to become the top of the food chain in order to overthrow the beast and restore peace to the land. This game is very weird when it comes to its presentation, graphics, and music. But overall, it's still a really fun game that I definitely recommend playing. The only downside to this game is that this is the most rare and expensive Nintendo GameCube game on the market currently. A copy of this game goes for a minimum of $200, and that's with the game case and manual included. Just the game disc itself is going to cost you around at least $120. So yeah, quite a big investment if you ask me. Number 2 on this list has to go to the 2 Star Fox entries for the GameCube, and these are Star Fox Adventures and Star Fox Assault. Now these games have gotten quite a bit of criticism from fans of the franchise due to taking a different turn away from what made the SNES and N64 Star Fox games so great. Star Fox Adventures focuses more on Zelda-like gameplay and implements more puzzle-solving mechanics, while Star Fox Assault implements the shooting spaceship mechanic while also implementing a third-person shooter perspective gameplay mechanic as well. Even though these games were criticized heavily, I personally have found enjoyment in these games still, from the character designs being very well done to also introducing Crystal to the franchise, which I think she's a very cool and interesting character and a great addition to the overall team. Give these games a try with an open mind if you are curious. And number 1 on this list has to go to the game that started off a very successful franchise for many years to come, and that is none other than Animal Crossing. This game was developed by Nintendo themselves and was originally made as a Japan-exclusive Nintendo 64 game. This is also Nintendo's first dive into the life simulation subgenre and implements a very unique gameplay mechanic of implementing the Nintendo GameCube's internal clock to impact gameplay. For example, if you play this game at 2 PM, it will be daytime in the game, and if you play this game at 1 AM, it will instead be nighttime in the game. Another example is that if you don't play this game for a couple of days, by the time you get back to playing it, things in the game will have changed. This was done very well, and Nintendo deserves a lot of praise for this. This game is also super cute and adorable with very chibi-like anthropomorphic characters just living their day-to-day lives in their town. I definitely recommend playing this game if you are a furry who is a fan of life simulation games, and also enjoys games that are very relaxing and therapeutic. And that pretty much wraps up the top 5 best furry-centered Nintendo GameCube games. How do you guys feel about my list of the best furry-centered Nintendo GameCube games? Do you guys agree with my list? Do you guys not? Was there any games that I missed? How do you guys feel about the Nintendo GameCube? Were you guys huge fans of it growing up? Were you guys not? Let me know down in the comment section down below. If you enjoy my content and want to further help out my channel, please consider donating to my Patreon page and my Ko-fi, hitting that like button, turning on that notification bell, and subscribing altogether. I have been SeetherCord, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye, everyone. I can't get food down my throat. I've lost 5 pounds. Keep it up, lady. It's doing wonders. I'm sorry, I'm terrible. That's obvious fat joke.